Welcome back to Scholastically Natalie, where we talk about books, writing, and D&D, and sometimes games. Today we're moving into the Let's Write realm of things and talking about story hooks. Specifically, narrative-wise story hooks. We're not going for essays right now. We can talk about those later if you want, but for now we are definitely focusing on ones that help with novels or short stories. So, what is a hook? A hook is an intro to a story. It's part of the exposition. And to be more specific, it is the first sentence or first two sentences that grab your reader's attention and quote unquote hook it. So, why would that be important? So, good hooks are what keep your reader's attention. They are what get your readers invested in the story. Bad hooks make you lose interest. I definitely spent the first page of a fantasy novel that I was trying to read endlessly confused. They were mentioning, different countries, different places, this guy's name, what he was called in other countries, what he did in those other countries, why people were scared of him. And this entire time I was like, I don't even know who this guy is or what or where any of these countries are or why they matter. I don't care. This is overwhelming. And honestly, what can turn people, a bad hook that can turn people off is an info dump. So there's 4 different types of hooks: middle of the action, emotional connection, shocking statement, or that leave questions. So the first type of hook is in medias res, which is when you start the reader off in the action with absolutely zero context. What this can often do is it has some sort of compelling, fast-paced energy that often can make you turn pages and get caught up in the pace without really realizing it. Well-written action scenes that are media res are really well done and make you just get instantly invested. Secondly, in media res will generate questions. Oftentimes, if this is a fight or some sort of escape scene, you're wondering to yourself, who are they fighting? Why are they fighting these people? Or why are they running away from these people? Or why are they doing this thing? And why is it so important? And all of those questions are great to get somebody invested in your novel because clearly you're going to explain those things. But the main problem is how is this going to fit into your narrative? If you're making it because there's several different ways. One of them is that you can turn it into a prologue, kind of like how movies or TV episodes will start with either 3,000 years ago or 5 days ago and have something important happen, or they'll have it be a flashback that ties back to the later end of the episode or the movie. To be honest, I feel like that's low-key a crutch. It's perfectly fine to use when you're starting to write stuff, and sometimes it can really work, but other times you're kind of relying on something that might not deliver as big of an emotional impact later because of how you've set it up in the beginning. But you can turn it into a prologue and then start writing chronologically. Or you can write in kind of a non-linear way. For people that are good examples of that, I think of Kurt Vonnegut. Specifically by that, I mean you might be talking about something that's happening later time-wise in the story, and you might switch back between the present and the future and the past in your story the entire time without having it all be completely 100% constructive. This would definitely be a harder way to do it. I'm thinking when I'm editing one of my short stories more, I'm probably going to be doing that. But I'm not really sure how to do that just yet. I can say I did start us in media res in one of the short stories I had to write for fiction writing. But I honestly just made it the beginning of the story for this person. I had them honestly dying at the beginning of the story, and they end up being kind of resurrected and have to move on from there. So you can actually just fit it into your story as well, honestly, as long as you make it make sense. So the next hook that you can use is emotional connection. So for instance, what if you're not planning an action-packed book? What if you're planning something more on the level of Sarah Dessen, who's a really good internal relationship self-discovery writer, something along those lines? Well, if you start as a hook, maybe some sort of like intense emotional moment that could be a hook, because then you get all your readers to empathize with your main character, or show some sort of like dramatic scene that, while it may not be intense physically, it could be action-packed emotionally, or have really good visceral descriptions of emotions that will leave your readers going, oh, I want to know more about this person, or oh, I want to know more about how they develop from here. And then another hook we have is a shocking statement. So sometimes that can be just a controversial statement that makes your audience want you to prove it to them. You can also use it to introduce a theme that then frames how the rest of the book will be read. So in this way you're kind of making it like a thesis statement, and then you're using the rest of the book to back it up. Or you could use it to introduce like the premise of like a different society, or an aspect of the society that you're examining. So, for instance, if I want to write about a fantasy world, maybe I'll just make like, and it's based in reality, but it's like augmented reality, sort of like integrated Harry Potter-esque. I might say like, to start off the story, sorry, I'm thinking on the spot. I could say something like, behind every mirror there's a doorway to another world. That sounds like a fun intro, a fun premise, and then show you that happening, and that's the beginning of the story. Or show you somebody discovering that doorway, and that would be fun. Or something like that. Or even if you want to make it realistic fiction or something, you could pick a specific issue or topic in nowadays society or past society that you want to talk about, and that you want to bring attention to. And by stating it in a factual, kind of like obvious way, you'll kind of highlight that theme throughout your book. Sorry, I thought I accidentally skipped something. So then lastly, it's like kind of just like an overall thing, because maybe none of your hooks fit into this. You want to leave questions. You want your reader to be guessing about like a character's motive, a backstory, their intention, because otherwise you're not reading to find anything out. Like if you're watching a character have a really intense moment or like crumble, you want to sit there and go, oh my god, how are they going to recover from this? Oh my gosh, how are they going to move on? What's going to help them? And then see where they go from there. Like, you don't want to just be like, well, this happens, and then this happens, and then that happens. Because I've read stories like that, and I don't care about their main character. I don't care about them. I'm reading because I think the plot's interesting, but I don't care about the character, and I'm not sad if, like, nothing happens the way they want it to. Which is a style, but I think it's a style with less emotional involvement. I feel very apathetic and kind of drained after I read those stories. And so then there's some general hook tips for you. So you do want to stay away from long descriptions, at least in the beginning, which is ironic because I do have long descriptions, not pages of them, but I will give you paragraphs of it. But you always want these to generate questions, because unanswered questions will give you suspense. And if you start off with lengthy description that doesn't leave any questions whatsoever, it's not useful for you or your reader. They're just going to get stuck on small details and maybe be a bit bored because it's kind of like an info dump. And then you also want to use a hook because you want to keep the attention going. So maybe later on you're going to answer some questions. Maybe later on you're going to show why this person feels this way or how they're recovering. And so then you want to introduce another hook or another question later through the story so that people are continually interested. People are eternally questioning in order to get to the end of the book. Because maybe your character's just resolved one emotional issue, but maybe now they're having to deal with a relative, or something else has come up, or their car's broken down, like something like that. Maybe it might be a minor inconvenience, but maybe they can't fix it easily. Or if it's in a fantasy novel, maybe they've gotten through one section that they need to, but now an even bigger problem has arisen, or an even smaller problem has arisen that's keeping them there. There's plenty of different avenues to explore. It can be generally small questions that people want answered. It doesn't have to be some sort of like groundbreaking, like, oh no. It can always just be a small thing that will keep your audience invested even from chapter to chapter. So, I think that's the end of our hook talk for today. If you enjoyed it, feel free to let me know either by leaving a like or a comment. If you want more questions answered about hooks, feel free to leave a comment. If you are interested in essay hooks, let me know. I can definitely talk about those. I hope that this was helpful to you in some way or another. Please remember that I also talk about D&D and books that we have read and games on this. I almost called us a channel. Yeah, I'm a channel. So if you're interested in any of that, subscribe. You can find me on Twitter at ScholasticallyNatalie and the same on Twitch, where occasionally I stream Franbo, writing, or other weird games. Thank you for watching. Scholastically Natalie, out.